All right, people, it's crunch time. Dude, what are you doing? That was like a brand new bag of chips. You said it was crunch time. Yeah, but I was referring to the fact that I need to get this thing working and I don't have a whole lot of time to do so. My bad. Okay, well, just need to stop goofing around. Hey, we may not have a lot of time, but now we have a lot of microchips. Anyways, so what am I talking about? Well, as of recording this, I have less than 2 weeks to try to get this PC up and running to present it at VCF SoCal, which is happening on February 15th and 16th of this year. And I entered to be a exhibitor. So I want to demo this PC the way that it came basically out of the box back in the mid 90s. And so it's going to take a bit of work, but hopefully we can get there before it's time to head down there. So this PC was actually my family's first multimedia computer back in the mid 90s. And my parents bought it at Radio Shack. They got it on credit because it's not like they had the money to get the system. Brand new. This thing was about like just over like $3,000. And that was including the monitor, the computer, the console, wireless mouse, and the keyboard. Now, unfortunately, the only original things that I have from when my parents originally bought it is the tower, the original wireless mouse, which is not in the greatest of conditions. And if I can't get this thing going before the festival, then I'm not going to be able to like demo it. The keyboard, unfortunately, is also not the original one. I ended up having to hunt one down. And it needs some work. It's a little grimy. And I don't know if this is actually the original model keyboard that came with this computer. I tried to find lots of information. As best as I can guess, I think this might be it, but I'm not entirely sure. The monitor is also not the original monitor. I had to hunt one down. Those are freaking impossible to find. I finally was able to get one. And unfortunately, it did not include the stand. And so I ended up having to hunt one of those down as well. But fortunately, just a few weeks before I actually found out about this VCF SoCal, I managed to get one. And so now I pretty much have the complete set. And so it's going to need some work. But let's go ahead and take a look at everything we've got and we'll see what we're dealing with. Okay, so starting with what should hopefully be the easiest thing to deal with, the keyboard. So as I mentioned, this is not our original keyboard. Unfortunately, our original keyboard, I don't know, something went wrong with it. And at that time, I did not have the skills or anything to try to fix anything like that. So we ended up just buying a replacement. And then that keyboard, I don't even remember exactly what happened to it. But I got this used one. And as you can see, it's kind of, I don't know if the camera's actually doing it justice, but it's a bit dirty and nasty. So it's basically going to require just taking it apart, giving it a good cleaning. Hopefully there's nothing else wrong with that. I have not actually tested to see if all the keys work or anything, but I'm hoping that this cleaning will do it and that will, be more than sufficient. And as far as the disc console goes, this is actually not the original disc console. This is. So as you can see, it's definitely seen better days. However, when we last used this PC, the drives were still fully functional. But I did get this replacement console that seems to be in a lot better condition. If something happens to be wrong with it, as maybe like the CD-ROM or something has an issue, maybe I can swap parts between the two. But yeah, this one would definitely need quite a bit more work. And not to mention the fact that this piece broke off of the corner, which is supposed to be the power button and activity indicators. Unfortunately, the power button, I have no idea what happened to it. So that seems to be missing. And so hopefully I don't have to do anything with this one, especially since I have such a limited amount of time. And I can get this one working and loading up the software, because I am going to have to, or I'm going to reinstall the recovery disk that came with the PC, which I miraculously happen to still have. So hopefully the drive works for that. And I mentioned that the original mouse that came with the machine is this wireless kit. And so I've got the original receiver and I do have the original mouse. Unfortunately, the original mouse has a few actually, it's got one issue really, in that the optical rollers are both missing. And that is because at one point, I think the mouse got dropped and one of them broke. And so I took out the other one and I gave it to somebody in an attempt to maybe see if they could duplicate it somehow. But this was like early 2000s. So it's not like we really had 3D printers or anything available. Unfortunately, I never saw it again. And so this mouse has been pretty much dysfunctional since. As you can see, there's also some rust where the battery contacts were and everything. And I just dropped the connection button. Oh, well, it's on the floor. I can pick it up. So that's going to require some cleaning. You can see that water got into this at some point. There's a bit of rust there on that contact or the battery terminal. But other than that, it seems to be in pretty good shape. It looks like none of the traces or anything were severely corroded or anything. It seems to be mostly superficial. So I think that'll clean up just fine. I may have a replacement coming for the two little optical wheels. Will I get them on time? I'm not sure, and I don't even know if they're going to be the right size. But hopefully they arrive and I can get this mouse working again. If not, I got other PS2 mice that I can use. So it's not too big of a deal, but I would like to get this mouse at least working again. I've got the rest of the parts for the mouse in this little medicine bottle. And one thing that kind of sucks, and I got the ball in this sack. This is the original mouse ball, and it's a lot smaller than most common mouse balls, and I cannot find replacements of these anywhere, so I'm kind of glad that I do still have the original one. As you can see, it's a bit stained, but there is no pitting or like chunks missing out of it or anything. So if I can get those two little optical wheels, I think that it should work just fine with this original ball. And as far as the tower goes, we're actually going to find out a few things together because there's some things about it that I do not remember. This computer has not been used in probably a good 20 years or more. So there's a lot of it that I don't remember what exactly was configured. But if we take a look at the back, we can see there's a bit of a kind of corrody, rusty looking stuff. So as we can see, there's a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 slots that are populated. And there's a VGA connector down on the bottom left corner. And as you can see up there, we also have another VGA connector. Now, this is not because I have a second graphics adapter plugged into one of the slots. That's because the original 15-pin connector, something went wrong with it. And whenever we'd plug a monitor into it, it wouldn't make very good contact. And so the colors were all wonky. And so what I ended up doing is I took some ribbon cable, I soldered it to the back of just a plain 15-pin connector, and I think that's it that we can see inside. I think that's the ribbon cable that goes all the way around and onto the bottom side of the motherboard, and then I soldered those wires to where the wires or the pins of this connector are on the motherboard, so that way I could completely bypass the connector and still be able to connect the monitor to the PC. At one point I did have a Voodoo 2 installed on this computer. I do still have that Voodoo 2, but it also needs some work, so it's not going to make it, unfortunately. That one is going to require a little bit more care. But other things that we've got on this computer, we've got a serial port and a parallel printer port. And I don't remember why I had added this card. I think I just wanted to have another serial port. As you can see, we got one serial port on it. We do have the parallel port, so it's just to have an extra one, I think it was. I don't remember what I ever used it for, to be honest. We have this big 50-pin connector. It's like a Centronics one, and I think this is the one that goes to the disc console. And then we have another one on the bottom, but this is not because I have two of those. It's because I actually stuck a SCSI card in this PC at one point, and I used to use it to like mess with SCSI drives and SCSI devices and things like that, so I could either like test them out, or use it for whatever reason. So that one there is the SCSI card. Below it, we have a 10100 network card because it doesn't have networking built in, so that had to be added after the fact. And then at the very bottom, we've got the infamous M-Wave card. Now, at the time, I didn't know it, but apparently these were kind of crappy. And apparently, as I found out just recently, there was also, I guess, a lawsuit related to these, and people that own these machines got some money like reimbursed for that card. I mean, it came built in with the computer, but I don't know if we ever got any money for it or not. That's just something I found out recently. So, I mean, I'm just going to keep it all original, so it's not going to replace this with a different sound card or anything. I'm a little worried as to the state of some of the stuff inside. I don't know how dirty it's going to be. As I said, there's a bit of like surface rust. I don't know if any liquids got into this because it was stored outside for a while. It wasn't like, out in the rain or anything like that, but I think some moisture hopefully did not corrode anything inside as the motherboard or some of the adapter cards are concerned. Now, this hole, as you can see, there's a bit of a sticker residue there. What used to be there was an audio jack, and the cable from the the media console, the audio cable from the CD-ROM drive would plug into that. There was a cable that went from that to the M-Wave card, and that's how CD audio used to be routed into the machine. And so I may need to make something for that. I don't remember what happened to the original jack in this thing. Actually, don't even know if I may have it somewhere. I'll have to look, see if by any chance I can find it in my little bin of junk cables. It may be there. I'll look for it. But as far as the machine goes, this originally came with a Pentium 200 megahertz CPU installed. And at one point, I convinced my parents to buy a Pentium 233 with MMX. And I wanted to upgrade the machine. Unfortunately, it seems that this motherboard only supports up to a 200 megahertz CPU. And so the CPU did work when I installed it. I could not clock it any faster than 200 megahertz. So we basically had a 200 megahertz MMX CPU or 233, but it was just downclocked to 200 megahertz. And I thought that that's what still was in this machine. However, I went looking for the original CPU, the 200 megahertz non-MMX, because I was pretty sure that I still had it. And I found this one in my stuff, but this is not a 200 megahertz non-MMX CPU. This is a 233 with MMX. And I don't remember getting any one of these like after the fact. So I'm wondering if at some point I swapped out this one back with the 200 megahertz one. And I'm not entirely sure. So we're going to have to investigate that and see what's going on. Maybe I did get this one at some other point and I just don't remember. But yeah, we'll find out. So to get into this case, the way it used to be done is at the very top underneath this carrying handle. This was like before the GameCube. This one came with a carrying handle. There was two screws that were hidden underneath. So there was one on the left, one on the right. And as you can see, they're both gone. That's because I was constantly opening this thing up. So I just kind of left them off. Unfortunately, the model number sticker that used to be on the machine there fell off at some point. So that's missing, as well as the original Pentium, logo and the made for Windows sticker that used to be there. So yeah, we're going to have to give this case a really good cleaning. As you can see, it's kind of really grimy looking. So the case slides forward and kind of goes like that. So, all right, I can already see that I don't have the hard drive up on the top. So maybe I installed a hard drive somewhere in the front. Or is there no hard drive at all? Oh yeah, there's a hard drive up at the top on this side. And that's also not the original hard drive. Unfortunately, the original hard drive suffered some catastrophic damage and it's no longer in the machine. So I do have it though. It's also not in good condition. I'll show you that one later. But let's see. So, everything's dusty inside. I don't see any signs of major corrosion just yet. So that's a good sign. All right. So yeah, let's get in here a little better and we'll see what we got going on. Okay, so inside the machine, you can see this is that ribbon I was talking about. Now that I actually might have the skills, I'll see if we can maybe get the other 15-pin connector working. If not, then I'll probably have to leave something like this inside the machine. Although I believe that there was a header on the motherboard where a separate VGA connection could be made. So I'll see what's up. If that's the case, then maybe I'll make something for that instead, make it a lot cleaner looking than this piece of crap. So we'll see what we can do about that. There's the M-Wave card. There is the network card. This is that SCSI adapter I was talking about. You can see that the motherboard is down at the bottom. All the cards are mounted on a separate riser. We only have two PCIe ports. PCI ports. Everything else is the I sub us. So there is the card for the center or the media console, and that's that serial / parallel card. Now, I'm going to take everything out except for the stuff that originally came in the machines, like the M-Wave card. and the media console board. And I'm going to take out the serial card, the SCSI card, and the network card because it's not like I'm going to need networking on this thing or anything. So I'm going to just cover everything up with some blanks, and I already have those on hand. So if we take a look down at the bottom, that's where the RAM is. And I think I had a total of 48 megabytes or 42 megabytes or something installed on this thing. I think I had the original, I think it was 16 megabytes or something that came with the thing. I don't remember exactly. Although it does have, and that's like the EDO RAM. Up at the top, we see we've got another 168 pin DIMM slot. And I think I do have some that will actually fit in that are 64 megabyte sticks. I got to check and see if they're compatible. But I might just take all 4 of those out and install a single 64 in it while I'm in here. And up there's the CPU and the fan. And originally, this did not come with a fan sink like this. It just had the regular finned heat sink, no fan. So I installed this after the fact at some point. There is a small fan up in the front. You can see it right there. So that would actually blow like a little bit of a breeze through the fins and, cool the CPU off that way. And at that time, these CPUs really did not get like crazy hot, not like they do nowadays. So that was more than enough. I just added this because I could. Not that it was completely necessary. And so let's, since I'm pretty much going to have to dismantle the entire PC to give it a good cleaning, I'm going to remove this base. And unfortunately, some of the tabs that hold the base to the metal chassis have already broken off. I think the plastic has just gotten brittle over time. But I believe that we should be able to just push the case back that way and pull the plastic forward. And that should release it. Oh, I see. It's got some little tabs like in the center that look like maybe those need to pop out before the thing can slide. But since 3 of these tabs are already broken, feels like we only have one holding the thing in place now. Let's see. Ah, there we go. It's got tabs. You just pull them up like that. I did not remember that. Yeah, so there we go. If I want to get this thing to reattach properly, I'm probably going to have to fix these somehow, or maybe like make a little printed piece that I can attach to it. But yeah, that's the base. You can see it's pretty filthy. Oh, and I just realized part of it is cracked. Well, I think a little bit of maybe some epoxy can take care of that. But all right, got some cobwebs and stuff down at the bottom. Yeah, it doesn't look like any fluid or anything has gotten all the way to the bottom, so I think we might be in good shape. And let's just take out all the screws to get these boards out. Socket driver, you are my friend. We'll be together until the end. Okay, I got all the screws out, and we can start pulling stuff off. There's that 15-pin connector, and we'll take a closer look at it in a bit. You'll see my crappy soldering from the time. So we'll just kind of let that dangle off because it's not like I can pull it out. So there is this 2-pin connector that goes to the M-Wave card, and I believe that was for wake on ring functionality. There was some software that came installed on this PC that was called Ring Central. You can use the PC to basically work as your answering machine, and I believe you could have it so that if you receive a phone call, you could have it wake up the machine from standby. So now the M-Wave card should be able to come out. And there it is. So very dusty, but fortunately it looks like it's still in pretty good shape. So it's got this plastic box. That's where all the modem hardware is hiding underneath. You see there's the M-Wave chip, and it's got some RAM and some other support logic most likely there. So bottom of the card looks pretty good. So I'm going to clean up the fingers on the edge, though, before we reinstall it. Dust all this dust off. And after that, I think it should be good because, like I said, this PC, when I stopped using it, it was fully functional. Although we weren't really using it for it much at that point in time. We had upgraded to other PCs. At that point, I was already building my own. Like, we weren't buying like pre-made stuff anymore. So this was basically the Elasta pre-made that we actually bought. All right, and I'll just go ahead and remove everything else. There's the SCSI card. That's in AHA 1520A. So it's got the 50 pin connector up at the top, as well as the Centronics in the back. And I think there must have been some model of one of these that came with a IDE expansion on the end there, but this one does not seem to have it populated. So yeah, this is not, I'm not going to put it back in for now because it's not like I have any SCSI devices inside the machine, as you can see. So I'll just leave this one sitting out. Actually, I was wrong about the network card. It's not 10100. It's not even PCI. It's ISA. So this was only going to be a 10 megabit card then. That's a Kingston Ether RX plug and play KTC 8891-AXCM. So that is that. This is the card that connects the media console. And as you can see, it has a power connector on the back of it. That's the 4-pin Molex. And so that was because obviously to the drives, you would need to have power. They did not have their own power supply or anything. It was provided through that same connector. And so that's what's all on this board. Looks like you just got some, maybe it's like a CPLD right there. It's got an Altera device, some glue logic stuff. It did have another little ribbon that connects to the motherboard right there in the back. I had to pull that off before I could pull it out. So that's what's all on that. There's a resistor, a big meaty resistor. You can see that's a 2.4 ohm. What is that? Like a 10 watt resistor? Looks like. Yeah, I think that's what it is. So, yep, that's that card. Just going to need a dusting and a cleaning, and it should be fine. And that's the serial and a parallel card. You could probably tell this actually came out of an old IBM PC that I found in the trash. And I think I tried to power that PC on and it didn't work. But I believe this card was fine. I don't really know what was wrong with that PC. And at that time, I did not have the troubleshooting skills to try to get it working. But this card is actually, I just noticed that. I think I might have tried to take that connector off at some point. I did not have the proper tools to do so. So that looks like garbage. Oh man, I have a feeling we're going to see other stuff like that. Or, well, I mean, obviously we are because of that 15-pin connector. So I'm getting a little ahead of myself there. But yeah, that's that card. Now that riser board, it does have one screw that needs to be removed before I can pull it up. I think it's just one. Yeah. So it does have a power connector going to it. You can see it's a 6-pin connector. It's got 3 greens and 3 blacks. So it's 3 grounds. And then I think this green one might be a 3.3 volts for the PCI slots. So now should be able to just pull it straight up. Yeah, there it goes. So that's the riser board. And oh, the interconnects came off. But basically what it is there's 2 connectors, like this brown one on this board. There's one on the motherboard. And then in the middle, they have these little boards that are nothing but just fingers that go straight across, double-sided. So I'll be able to take all these off, give everything a good cleaning. And the motherboard is thankfully looking pretty good. Now, I was right. There is a header on the motherboard that you can connect a VGA connector onto. It looks like I already did that. But as you can see, it's like super janky. Apparently, I did not have the proper connector at the time. So it looks like I just stuck this on there and jammed it in. But I know that at one point I did have the wires soldered directly to the connector on the back. So when we flip the board, when we take the board out, and we flip it over, we're probably going to see some jankiness on the of a solder job on those pins as well. But yeah, this is what I was talking about. So the VGA can be taken straight off of the motherboard and ran to a separate connector. I think that must have been done because maybe these motherboards were also used in machines that had like a built-in display or something. And so instead of having like a separate connector connected to that 15-pin connector in the back and then having it loop back into the machine, they could just connect it internally to that connector and, you know, avoid the hassle of having other extra cables. So yeah, that's what that is. There is another header down at the bottom. I don't remember what that was supposed to be for. There is the ATI Rage 2. That's the video processor. And then it's got, I think it had 2 megabytes of video memory. And I'm kind of glad that everything inside looks fairly clean other than the dust. I was kind of preparing myself to expect a lot worse in there, but thankfully it doesn't look like that's the case. Okay, I removed all the screws from the main board. Now I believe it should just be able to, yeah, okay, that come off, so that feels pretty free. Oh, let's disconnect the front fan. There's a little connector up in the front of the motherboard. And this is how janky I used to do things. So it looks like I took some connector and what did I do? I don't even know what the heck I did here. But looks like I must have stuck this wire into this connector and then extended the wires on this fan, soldered them together and used a little bit of heat shrink to go to that fan. And yeah, so that's not going to come off easily. So I'm just going to take this fan sink off, and it's got some heatsink grease on it, so that's fine. Yeah, I'm going to clean that off once we remove it, and we'll see what CPU is actually inside this thing. So now this should come out. And, oh, come on, cable. There we go. Okay. There is the main board. Look at the back. Okay. So that's where I was talking about that I soldered the original wires going to that other VGA connector too, or the 15-pin connector. Luckily, it doesn't look like I did any damage to the board, so that looks like it's still pretty good shape. So now that I've got the proper tools, I'll see about removing this connector and see what we can do about it. I'll see if maybe I have something I can replace it with and maybe get it working properly again. And the motherboard itself looks pretty good, so I'm pretty happy about that. And since I'm going to be giving everything a cleaning, I'm just going to also remove the power supply while I'm at it. Okay, and the last thing that needs to come out is the hard drive that I had inside. And this is a small, it's a Seagate, I think this is, oh yeah, it was only like a 1.2 gigabyte hard drive. This is one that I bought used on eBay like a very long time ago. And as I mentioned, not the original hard drive. This was actually the original hard drive that came in this machine. And this was a 3.2 gigabyte drive. And unfortunately, what happened to this one was that at one point I was messing with something on the PC. And so, I had the cables plugged in the back. But instead of seating the drive down on the desk like that, I had it on its side like this. And some of you can probably already see where this is going. I think I was copying something from like one drive to another or something. And well, I had it like this. At one point it tipped over and it just landed like that while it was powered on, got a head crash, and basically I lost everything that was on this drive. And so I opened it up at one point because I was, curious to see what was in these hard drives. It's not like I had, real good experience with a lot of this stuff back then. So yeah, this is the original that came in this machine. It's just no longer any good. And the reason why this is a smaller drive is because at that time that I replaced, or that I put this drive in there, this is actually not the one that replaced this drive. I actually ended up replacing this drive with a 15 gigabyte Western Digital drive, which I believe I still have. I was trying to find it, but I could not find it. I think it must be in another box in a different castle. So I'm going to have to go searching for it. But when I put this one in, it was around a period of time when I realized that it's better to have the operating system on like one drive and then just store all my data and stuff on a separate drive. That way, if I needed to reinstall the operating system, I didn't have to go and mess with my storage drive. I could just do it on a much smaller drive. And so that's why this is inside of this. And I think I would have had another bigger drive, but I probably took it out because it probably had stuff on it that I needed. So that's why this is the only drive that was left inside this machine. And with all that, that's the case completely stripped down. So I'm just going to dust off all these boards, clean off all the gold fingers, so make sure that everything gets good contact, clean up these other boards. We'll see about repairing the VGA connector on the main board. I'm going to dust out the main power supply. I'm going to probably open this up as well just to make sure that there's no like bulging caps or anything that looks leaky, just to avoid any problems. And I'm also going to figure out I'm going to do a little something different with this fan sink. I'm going to remove it from being permanently connected to the power supply because that's just kind of janky. So yeah, everything it looks like it might just need a good cleaning. And once we get it all cleaned up and I can try to reinstall the OS, we'll go through that process and then we'll try to run some software on it. All right, and I'm really curious to know what CPU is in this thing now because, like I said, I do not remember. So let's clean off some of this grease. Oh, that is an MMX CPU. So this is the 233 that I installed that I was thinking I had installed. So, yep, 233. Huh, so that means that I must have misplaced that other Pentium CPU I had. Well, I do have a 200 megahertz regular Pentium now. And where did I put it? Here it is. So this is another MMX Pentium that's just a 200 megahertz CPU. So I'll probably end up putting this back in because I think it's kind of a waste to put a 233 megahertz part. I really don't think that having that and only running it at 233 megahertz is doing the system any favors. So we'll probably pop that in. Once I get around to it, we'll just leave that unpopulated for now. This little thing, if you're wondering, is actually a voltage selection jumper. So let's see, does it say what it is? Connector side. No, this one. No, just a shorting block. But I think it's set for like 2 point, what is it? What do these run at? These are like 2.8 volts. So I think that's what this was. It was to select the right voltage for the CPU that's installed. So we're just going to go ahead and leave that in there. And other stuff on the board. Looks like all the electrolytic capacitors look okay. I don't see anything that looks leaky or anything. So I'm hoping that those are all fine. That right there, that's the cache RAM for the CPU. I should probably just pull that off so I can give it a good cleaning also. I'll deal with that in a bit. These are the RAM sticks that were inside the machine. And so these are the two original 8 megabyte SIMs. And so it came with a total of 16 megabytes. These are two that I added after the fact. And I took these out of some Apple computer back in the day. And they worked in this machine, so I left them in there. They are two 16 megabyte modules each. And so, yeah, I had a total of 48 megabytes inside of this thing. And so I do have that stick that I was talking about. So yeah, this is this stick is a KTC 6611/64. So this is a 64 megabyte DIMM, and I believe it will work on this motherboard. I'm not entirely sure. I'm gonna have to check and make sure that it is compatible. But as you can see, it's a new old stock package. I've had this sitting around for a very, very long time. And so I'm hoping this will work. We'll see if we can upgrade this to 64 megabytes, because you can only have either this installed or the SIMs installed. You cannot have both. So if this will work, then I'll pop this in. And this is the cache RAM for the CPU. And as you can see, it says 0.2 megabytes. So I think this is 256 kilobytes of RAM. And it says 32K times 64. So at 66 megahertz. And it says warranty void if removed. Oh, I didn't remove the sticker yet. So I think I'm still under warranty. So yeah, that's what it is. Got two chips there. Well, actually, all three of these are RAM, but this would be like a DRAM, and these are going to be SRAM. So give that a wipe down as well. It's pretty dusty. Okay, and that connector down at the bottom that I said I wasn't sure what it was, that's an AMC/VFC connector. So that's for the video chip. It's basically the Visa feature connector. So that would be for connecting other devices such as like MPEG decoders and I think like tuners and stuff like that. Obviously, we never had anything installed in this one, so that's why that's just kind of sitting there. Now, one thing you may have noticed is that this motherboard appears to have the AT type power connectors. However, this was not exactly like AT compatible. This PC actually supported like soft power. And if we look to the right of this connector, we can see that it says PW or PS SW. So that's power switch. So it actually had like standby power. And that's how I was able to wake up from, or like wake on ring, as I was saying, like if you set the answering machine or the PC up to act as an answering machine, that's how it could get woken up. Because if you have like a clunky power switch, obviously that's not going to happen if you have the PC turned off. So it has, like I said, there was another connector. I think this is a 3.3 volt input connector. And so those two, the one that was on the riser board or the daughter board, this was like right around the time where PCs started having more of the soft power type power. And so none of this was like standard. It was all sort of its own proprietary thing. Okay, I took off the nuts so I could remove the input-output shield from the back. And so that way we can just have access to that connector by itself. As you can see, there's really not a whole lot on the back of this motherboard. We have a whopping total of one USB connector. And at the time when this PC came out, Windows 95 was what was in style. So we actually had the version of Windows 95 on this PC that actually supported USB. So that's why we have like one USB connector. And if I remember correctly, at the time, it was there was this whole thing about like, oh, you can connect like 128 devices to like one connector. But you had to have like a USB hub or whatever. So we didn't have a hub. And so sometimes getting USB stuff connected to this was a kind of a hassle just because we only had the one port. So if like, say I wanted to switch to something else, I'd have to unplug it, plug something else in. I didn't get like any hubs or anything until like way later on. So that was kind of annoying. What we are looking at is the 15-pin VGA connector. You can see it right there at the back. And see that it's kind of rusty. So surprisingly enough, even though I said that I did solder to these, I really didn't do a terrible job at it. They're not like completely destroyed or anything. Keep in mind, I was not the best at soldering at this point in time. So yeah, that actually doesn't look too bad. So what I am going to do is I'm going to desolder this connector, and then we'll see what's on the opposite side and see if maybe we can tell why the connector itself is not making very good contact with anything that gets plugged into it, like any monitors. And if I have to replace it, I'll see if I have something comparable that can go in there, or maybe we'll see if some traces on the top side or something are broken. I'm really not sure. And I'm going to start by putting some flux on all of these pins. And I'm going to melt some fresh solder to it. I believe that this is not lead-free solder, so it should hopefully have a pretty low melting temperature, or a fairly low. It's not going to be crazy low, but yeah, it's all coating pretty easily. Okay, I think that should be good enough. Now let's try to get all of that solder off of all those pins. Of course I did. I forgot to clean out the soldering gun. And now I got a big old solder booger built up inside. And it's having trouble sucking up any solder. So I'm going to have to clean this out before I can continue. All right, so I got all the solder removed from all of the pins, including the two left and right ones. And so let's see. We are going to be able to just pull this out, or if we're going to struggle a little more. I think those mounting pins are the ones that are kind of holding us back now. There it goes. It's coming out. Got one side out. Other side, come on. Get it up a little more. Yes. Oh, kind of pulled on a little bit there, but not too bad. Okay, everything on the board looks pretty good. What I think I can do is just to make sure that I don't have any... Well, I obviously don't, because if I was able to get the video signal from the bottom of this connector, then it's not a problem on the board. It's going to be a problem with the connector itself. So I'll see if I have a replacement that I can use. Looks like I don't have any connectors that are 15 pin like this just sitting around. And I would have to pull one off of a board like this. This one is actually pretty much very similar to the one I have in my hand. However, I try to avoid pulling any parts off of completed components or boards like this, especially ones that are fully functional and in good shape. Rather not take these apart anymore. So my only other option really would be to order something, but I really don't have time to do that and wait around for something to arrive. And it actually looks like I've been chasing the wrong problem. It looks like it might not be the connector after all. So I took the board, and this is the area where that connector goes, and I started doing a continuity checks between the red, green, and blue pins that would be on the 15-pin external connector and on the internal connector. Check this out. So pin 1 is on this side, and basically what they're doing is that I guess what's happening is that the red, green, and blue and the sync signals and all that stuff coming out of the video chip must go somewhere around there, and they snake off, and then at some point they split off, and then they both go into the two connectors. However, we can still check continuity between this connector and this connector. For example, this would be the blue pin. It turns out that blue pin is this pin, which would be pin number 6. And as you can see, we have a very little resistance measurement between those two. This would be green, which is the pin number 4, basically. Now check this out. This would be the red pin, and pin number 2 would be red on this header. That's a high resistance measurement there. So now that I think about it, I think that when I tried to solder the wires to the bottom of this connector, I think I was still getting the same issue. And now that I realized what's happening, I remember that the image would just become sort of a bluish green, and that's because we were only getting the blue and the green color signals. The red one would cut out. But when we would wiggle the connector in the back of the board, sometimes it would get the image to come back, and sometimes it would stay working for a while. Eventually, it might cut out again, so I'd go and wiggle it some more. And that's when I decided to try to solder some wires to the bottom connector. But apparently that didn't work, and I just don't remember. I think I must have gotten the same results because, as you saw, I did not leave the wire soldered onto the bottom of the connector. Instead, I decided to get a connector that I could punch that ribbon cable to and connect it to this header. And so this red trace, we'll see. Let me get the microscope out so we can see it better. Okay, there we go. So we have this trace that's for the red color signal. And as we can see, it goes to this capacitor. I think this side of the capacitor is just connected to ground. Let me see. I need to change the multimeter. All right, there we go. Okay, so if we check this side of, where is it? This capacitor and ground, which is actually this big pad right there. We can see that we have pretty much like no resistance there. It's like a dead short. So if we check from that hole where the red pin would be to there, that's still the red signal. On the bottom of the board, it jumps from that via to this via, and it goes to this small inductor. And if we check that side of the inductor, we see we have continuity. If we check this side of the inductor, it's got much higher resistance. And as we can see, it's just going up. So let's check this one. This would be for the green signal, I believe. We see that it measures pretty much a dead short. Let's measure this one again. It's changing. See, as I move this probe, push up and down, it's changing. So there's something up with that little inductor. I don't know if it just needs to be resoldered, if the solder is cracked somewhere, or if there's an actual problem with the component itself. You can see right there, I'm touching pretty much both sides, and I'm getting nothing. No, so that probably means that there's something wrong with it. If I push down, I can get it to work again. Yeah, so there's something wrong with that part. It was never the connector in the back after all. So before I found out that there was a problem with the small inductor on the board, I thought that maybe I could try to get this connector working again. Maybe it just had like some dirty pins or pins that weren't making proper contact or something, and I could tighten them up. And so it turns out this part of the bottom, it actually just clips into the main body like that. I was able to push out the clips on the sides. This comes off, and that allows us access to the pins, and then the pins we can just sort of grab from the base where it bends and pull it straight up like that, and they come right out. So, I mean, that pin looks pretty good. It looks like it'd be able to make pretty good contact with whatever got inserted into it. So, but I think what I'm going to do now that I have this like sort of taken apart, it's not really difficult to deal with, is I'll take out all the pins and I'll just give them all a really good cleaning. That way we can be sure that this connector is going to make like really good contact. And as far as that inductor on the, whoops, there we go. I accidentally hit the stream deck. As far as that inductor goes, I could probably just pull it off and replace it with one from there, because it's not like I'm going to have any of those on hand. I don't even know what value they are. And so I think that's going to be my best bet for now. I can try resoldering it or like reflowing it and see if it makes a difference. If it doesn't cut out anymore, then maybe there was just, I don't know, something wrong with it. But I kind of would hate to do all that, and then come day of the festival, this starts acting up again. So I think maybe I'll just swap it out with one of the known good ones, because that way I can avoid having any headaches anytime soon. So I'll do that instead. Okay, so I'm just going to apply some flux to both components, and I'm going to be using the spicy chopsticks for this. Okay, this should be hot now. So I'm just going to grab that. There we go. Pull it off the board. Just going to move it off to the side for now. Now I'm going to grab the known good one. There it goes. And I'm just going to move it over to this side. Come on, bro. Flow. Okay, this side doesn't look like it's soldered on there very well. No, it didn't. All right, there we go. That looks pretty good. Now, just so I don't forget that there was something there before, I'm going to put the bad one in this spot. And I'm just going to leave it there. All right, and let's just clean this up. Okay, I think that's going to do it. Let's test it again. Okay, here we go. So it was the red one. And now we should have continuity like all the way to this side. And yep, that's good. Let's see if we have continuity to this side. Yep, and if we have continuity on this side. So, heating it up seems to have fixed it, but I'm still not going to trust it very much. So I'm going to trust this one instead. I'm populating the last of the pins now, and I basically gave them all a bit of a cleaning, and I tightened up the two fingers on the end. And now I'm pretty confident to say that this connector was really never a problem. None of these pins looked particularly problematic. They were all fully intact. And even with the amount of space that they had between the two ends, it was not to the point where any of them were too wide that they would, have the pin come in and it be like loose inside. No, they were all like really good shape. So this is just more preventative of maintenance than anything at this point. But at least I'm happy that the connector is totally fine. I did sort of take a wire brush to the outer case, and I cleaned up some of that surface rust a bit. I mean, this thing is not going to be a beauty queen at this point. You saw how the case looked. Basically, all I'm doing is just kind of giving it a general cleaning, making sure that everything works properly. It's not like a full-on restoration or anything. So after we get this all put back together, we can jump onto something else. Okay, and then this cover just goes back on the bottom. And there we go. Cleaned up connector. All right, there we go. And with that, at this point, I think that's pretty much all the motherboard actually needed. As we can see, there's really no corrosion and everything on it that's going to need attention. I did give the entire board a good cleaning with some brushes to remove all of the dust. So it actually looks really clean. And I did find some information about the settings for the CPU speed. And yeah, it looks like the fastest CPU you can have on this board is 200 megahertz. The two jumpers that are right there, and then there's another couple of jumpers right there. Those are the ones that set like the bus and the clock ratio for the CPU. And yeah, it like tops out at 200. So what I'm going to do then, since putting a 233 megahertz processor in here is pretty much pointless, is that I'm just going to use the 200 megahertz MMX CPU. So I'm just going to pop that into the socket, and I might as well just leave it in place because that's what it's going to have to be. I did look up the information about the memory configurations that you can have on this board, and the manual claims that you can only have a 16 megabyte stick DIMM on this slot. However, you can populate all of them, but you can only have a total of 128. If the combined total of the DIMM and the SIMs is more than 128, then the system ignores the DIMM and only takes into account whatever you have, well, up to 128 on these the SIM slots. And so I was saying that the one that I have is a 64 megabyte DIMM. So I don't know if this is actually going to work, or if it says that only a 16 megabyte DIMM is supported in this slot because that was the biggest amount available at the time. So I don't know. Maybe I'll just have to stick with the 4 sims that I have and just repopulate those. I did clean them, so I dusted off everything and I cleaned off all the fingers, so everything is nice and dust free. So I don't have any concerns that stuff's not going to make very good contact. Here is the cache stick. So I cleaned that up as well. It was really dusty, but now you can see it's nice and shiny and everything is nice and legible. So I can pop this back in, actually. I don't have to, there's really nothing else I need to do with this one. I also cleaned off all of these interconnect pieces. So these can all be repopulated. They just go into this slot. I'm going to try not to touch them with my, I don't want to touch the gold surfaces with my fingers because I did clean those off like completely. So just leave those there. And yeah, so I think just so I don't encounter any headaches or anything unknown, I'm just going to repopulate all of my original sims back into the system. And then that way I at least know it'll work the way that it did. And there we go. So starting to look a lot more complete already. Okay, those are back in. And the only other thing I want to do to the board is replace this CR2032 battery. Let's see what sort of condition is in. I'm really curious. Like I said, this thing has not been powered on for over probably 20 years. And yeah, 2.88. So yeah, his battery's kind of low. And here's a nice fresh 2032. Let's see what we got. Ah, yeah, 3.3 volts almost. Just going to dust that socket off a little bit. There we go. And here's the 3 boards that are going to go inside the machine. This is the riser. This is that interface card for the media console, and the M-Wave card. So they were super dusty, but they cleaned up pretty well. And there are no physical issues that I can tell. I still need to clean the fingers off on both of these, but I'll do that before I pop them into the system. I also removed the plastic case from the modem part of the M-Wave card. In case anybody was curious, let's zoom into that and see what's all in there. So yeah, that's all that's inside of that modem little box. So little transformer, got a couple of relays, some optocouplers, and some basically high voltage suppression stuff is what I'm guessing a lot of this stuff is. And that's a funky, a metal can transistor. So this is the cover for that modem area. So it's basically this bottom cover pulls away, and then this top cover kind of clips into that. So just going to put this all back together now. And there we go. That's it. And in case anybody's curious as to how I clean the contacts on the edge connectors, you use a pink eraser like this. I actually learned this from a computer repair teacher that I had back in high school. And so she taught us is, yeah, just you use this, you rub the contacts. The eraser is abrasive enough to remove stuff on the surface, but it doesn't damage any of the contacts. It doesn't pull them up or anything. And this board is really not that dirty, so I don't know if we're going to actually notice much of a difference. You can see those right there. I rub them away. I don't know how well that's coming through on video, but yeah, they're cleaner, but it leaves a little bit of residue and stuff on them. So then you just, you can wipe them away, get rid of some of that stuff. What I do afterwards is after I'm done rubbing all the stuff off of them is I'll take a little bit of isopropyl alcohol and a little piece of rag or something, and then just wipe them clean. Just rubbing the eraser on them does wonders, and anything that you have that's not working, making very good contact or whatever, this method has been flawless for me. I've been using this for years, never had an issue with it. Always usually gets things working whenever they're having some sort of a contact issue. So yeah, I'll finish this off, and this board will be ready to go. You guys want to see some of my early cringy soldering? That's what it looks like up close. Definitely not great. I mean, it worked, so it wasn't totally terrible. But yeah, it looks pretty bad. Before putting the motherboard back into the case, I did want to clean out the power supply and test out the motherboard on the bench so that if I'm still having issues with that VGA connector, then I can rectify it instead of having to, remove it back from the case. However, I realized that IBM did me dirty. Look at this. The case is riveted shut. So it looks like I'd have to drill out these two rivets in order to pull this portion of the case off of the rest of it. And then I could get inside with my air compressor and blow out all the dust. It is pretty dusty in there. But I also want to do sort of like a visual inspection of the capacitors and make sure that nothing looks potentially problematic. So I think that's what I'm going to do. Fortunately, I do have a rivet gun that I can put some rivets back on. But I'd want to see if maybe I can put some screws on this instead of rivets. I'd rather be able to open this up in the future if needed instead of having to drill off the rivets. And also, I realized that on this connector where I put that wiring for the fan, I think all I did was stick these in there. It's not even they're not even crimped on or anything. I just jammed the wires inside like that. So that's how I got power to the fan. So I'm definitely going to do something different with the fan this time. I'm not going to go this route of trying to add some wires to the power supply. I'm just going to leave the power supply everything as how it came originally. So that's that. So yeah, I'll drill these out. We'll take a look inside the power supply. Well, that was a little easier than I expected. Now let's see if I can pull this case off. Looks like it just needs to slide forward. Okay, it's partially out. Okay, I think I need to release this clip. There we go. Okay, that was a little more difficult than I expected, but that part's out. So now, let's see. Feels like there's something right there that's holding it from being able to pop out. Oh, I see what it is. So this has to be pushed in so that the case can pop upwards. Come on. Okay, now that it's separated, it should... There we go. Oh, man, that was tricky. Certainly the most difficult to open power supply that I've ever dealt with. There we go. Finally. So, yeah, it's pretty dusty in there. I'd see on a first glance, nothing looks potentially problematic. Check out those resistors. Looks like they've been intentionally cut. So they were assembled with those resistors on the board, but for whatever reason, maybe it was some configuration thing, it looks like they cut them instead of just not including them on the board. So, stuff inside looks a little tarnished, but it's mostly dusty more than anything. So I'm going to blow it out, try to get all this dust out of here. Maybe I spoke too soon. Look in this area. Where is it? Right there. Looks like we've got a bit of capacitor leakage. So, looks like I'm going to potentially have to replace that capacitor. If anything, it doesn't look like it's coming from, unless it is coming from this one and it just sort of leaked down this way. I'm hoping it's not this large one. I don't have another power supply that I can use for this. All right, well, it looks like after I blow this out, I'm going to have to remove that board and see what's going on in that area. So I removed the 3 electrolytics, and sure enough, it looks like that the positive pin of the smallest capacitor is the one that was leaking. You can see it's a little bit gooey looking. The other 2, they look totally fine. Oh, and by the way, something I kind of failed to mention, working on these switching mode power supplies like this, it can be dangerous because especially these large capacitors, they can store a charge. Like I said, this one's probably never been plugged in about 20 years. So I did check the capacitors though. Like there was not like a single volt of like charge on them at all. So it was fine. So I desoldered the big one, and yeah, there's no leakage. I even tested them, and even though this one, it kind of tested within spec or so, like it wasn't totally abnormal. That's not good. So I'm going to definitely replace that one. And it was a 25 volt, 22 microfarad capacitor, 105 degree C rated. So I don't have any 25 volt ones. I have a 35 volt one, but I mean, it should be totally fine. It'll do for now. So I'm going to replace that one. And then I'm just going to put the other 2 back in because the other 2 seem to check out okay. And fortunately, I did not see anything else on the board that looked problematic. The other ones look fine. So unless I see anything else, I don't think I'm going to bother to mess with it. But yeah, no, as far as I can tell, it's just that one. Okay, so I got the new capacitor in there. This is the old one, and it looks pretty good. Give it a cleaning. It's not perfect, but like I said, I'm trying to rush to get this thing up and running again. And if you guys have been watching my channel for a while, you know that especially on power supplies like this that are kind of old, if there's at least one bad capacitor, I'll go through and replace them all. But that usually requires, going through and seeing all the values and then placing order for the parts that I need. But I seriously do not have time to go through all that right now. And since those 2, at least still measured within spec, I'm kind of confident that the other ones should probably be okay. It's not like this PC was like a high-powered PC or anything, so it's not like it was being like loaded to the max and driving the power supply hard. So I'm pretty confident that it's going to be okay. And I said that I was going to try to see if I could find some screws that would fit in those holes, and I did. I've got these pretty like coarse threaded screws. I think they're actually meant to be like fan screws. They just have like the round head, but they actually fit and hold really well. As you can see, I already installed one. That was my test, but yep, and I'm able to tighten it down quite a bit. So that will at least make it so that if I ever need to get back in there again, I don't have to cut off or, drill out some rivets. So that's secure, and I'm fairly happy with that. So I just got to put the clip back on side, and then this is done, at least for now. Before I try to connect this to the motherboard and see if it'll at least give us a video output, I want to check the standby voltage, which is these 3 wires. And I've already determined that the black one is indeed ground. I have no idea what the other 2 are. So I guess we'll find out. And one thing that I kind of forgot to mention also, that small capacitor that I replaced, it appears to be part of the standby circuit. So I guess that kind of makes sense. That one's always going to be part of the active circuit when it's plugged in. So I've already got this cable plugged in. Let's see if nothing goes up in smoke as soon as I plug it in. Make sure the switch is set right. Yeah, 115. Okay, so it's fine. Let's see. All right, nothing went pop. So that's good so far. And let's put the black probe on the black pin, and let's see what the white one does. 2.7 volts. Yes, that's fine. The other one's about 5. Yeah, okay, yeah, 5.1. Okay, so yeah, there's something about a rapid resume that this PC supports, and I'm guessing that 2.7 volts must have something to do with that, and maybe that keeps a part of the circuitry alive. Probably memory, I'm guessing, and then this 5-volt one, that's going to be the main system standby voltage. So that I think is okay. I actually don't know what the actual does it say anything? No, I don't think this actually specifies that one voltage. It just says the 5 volts to 12 volts, 12 volt negative 5 volt auxiliary. And then it says 3.52. So that's the one I thought was 3.3 volts. So yeah, nothing about that other small voltage. So I'm not sure. I think we're ready to try to fire this up for the first time in possibly over 20 years. So I just have it minimally connected. I've got a power going to the motherboard. And I realized what the other wire on this 3-pin connector is for. It's because you need the ground, you need the 5-volt, and then you need the power on signal going to the power supply. So the one that was measuring like that 2.7 volts or whatever, it's probably just a pull up on that line. So the motherboard grounds that out, and then that powers on the main portion of the power supply that powers on everything else. I've got the fan connected to the connector on the motherboard just so we can, see some fan spin to make sure that it's powered up. And I got the VGA connected to a VGA to HDMI connector that goes to my capture card. There is a 2-pin connector between the standby voltage connector and the main power connector. That it's meant for a power switch, so I'm just going to jump those two with the screwdriver, just kind of poke at it real quick to get the motherboard to power on. And before anybody gives me any crap about not having a heatsink on the processor, it's going to burn up. No, it's not. These things do not get that hot, and especially when I'm going to run it for only like a few seconds just to make sure that I have a video signal, it'll be completely fine. So let's just get that out of the way right now. All right, so I need to plug in power to the power supply. This is already plugged into mains. So it turned right on. Shoot, I don't even have the capture going. Let's see. Hey, it came up. I have not seen that in years. There it goes. It counted up it's counting up memory. That's freaking awesome. And I mean, the colors are correct because when let me see, I'm going to wiggle the connector. I got a little bit of crap there. You just saw it. Okay. So maybe there's still one of those inductors on the board that's not exactly doing well. And I got a couple beeps. There we go. So yeah, you see that? I'm wiggling the VGA connector and it's causing the colors to get kind of wonky. So it's still not good. I may have to remove some of those other inductors from the internal connector and just move them over to the external connector side. But sweet, it's working. So I should be able to shut it off by just touching those 2 pins. Yeah, there we go. It shut off. Well, that's good news. Checking resistance values with a pin stuck into the VGA connector and then touching a via on the opposite side for that particular color line. This is for the red. We can see that we practically have like no resistance. And if I push on the connector, it really does not change at all. So now let's try it on this would be the green. And let's see, there's a via right there. I believe, yeah, that's for the green. Oh, that one seems to be fluctuating quite a bit. Let's see if I push on the board. Yeah, look. Yeah, that's changing way too much. So looks like maybe the green is going to be our problem. Let me just double check and make sure that this pin is actually making good contact in there. Yeah, no, that feels good. Oh, lost it. Oh, wrong pin. There we go. Okay, so yeah, no, that seems like it's bad. Let me see what happens when I push directly on the inductor. Yeah, look at that. It's causing it to change. And I'm not shorting around it or, yeah, like across it. I'm just pushing on it. So, yeah, these inductors probably cracked from just having the connector on the edge of the board and having the board flex. I'm guessing that's must be what happened. So let's check the blue. So we got a good point right there. There we go. Push on the board. Yeah, that doesn't fluctuate. So it looks like the red and the green one were the primary problematic ones. So I'm going to do the same thing I did for the red one. I'm just going to pull one of the inductors from the internal connector and move it to the green side. So there we go. I got the replacement inductor placed right where it says L22. I think these are actually just ferrite beads, but they're marked as inductors. So yeah, I don't know. But anyways, as you can see, where the other inductor I would have put, where I put like the bad one for the red, I would have put the blue one in that spot. I did not put it there. And why is that? Well, that's because it turns out this one was in worse condition. As you can see, it completely came apart. And so it appears that this one was actually worse than the other one because I didn't squeeze this very hard or anything. I just lifted it off the board. And as soon as I did that, it came apart. So yeah, this was definitely no good. And if you ever wondered what was inside of one of these, like I did, there we go. So you can see the conductor running through the center, just sort of like sandwiched or encapsulated with the ferrite material all around. So I'm at really high magnification, and just me talking is causing me to shake enough to throw everything out of whack. So yeah, there you go. Sweet. There we go. That's definitely much better. Okay, let's give it one more quick run just to verify that we're going to be good. So I'm going to see if it comes back on when I apply power. Yeah, I guess it's just set to come on when it regains power. So let's just switch over to that capture. And it looks like it should come back up. There it is. So I'm going to wiggle. Yep, it's not fluctuating at all anymore. That was it. Those ferrite beads were the problem. All right, cool. All right, I'm going to shut this down. And now I can continue with the rest of the case. Now, I sort of debated taking the fan off of the heatsink. As I mentioned, the original stock heatsink did not even have a fan. So, but I thought, well, whatever. I'll just keep this with the fan. The only thing is that I would still have to figure out a way to connect this to 12 volts to provide power to it. And there are no other connectors on this motherboard to provide power to a fan. There's only the one header up in the front. When these computers were available, like they didn't have like a ton of fans or anything. There was, yeah, like maybe like 2, if 3 at the most. So what I do have though, there is one connector on the board we can zoom into. It's a 2-pin connector. It's pretty much a 3-pin connector like the fan ones are on the more modern computers. As you can see on the side, it says speaker power. So what this is, it's actually providing 12 volts through those 2 pins. And I could actually just put a connector on the end of the cable, plug it into that, and that should be able to power the fan. This was most likely than not meant to power like an internal amplifier if this thing was going to be built into, some sort of a self-contained system with a monitor and speakers and everything. So since it's not being used for anything, I figured I could just use it for that instead. I am going to have to extend the cable a bit though, but I already got some stuff together that's going to help me do that. So let me show you guys real quick what I'm going to do for that. So I'm going to take that extra piece that I cut off that was already spliced together right at that point. I'm going to make it look a little bit neater. And also I'm going to put some of this sheathing over the wires just to kind of make it look a little neater. Use some heat shrink. And then on the end, where did I put it? Here we go. So I'm going to put one of the 3-pin connectors, and then I'm just going to crimp on some of the matching contacts. So yeah, that's the plan, and that should be good. Sweet. Before I put the motherboard back into the case, I do want to get it all cleaned up. And there's like this white sort of grainy feeling stuff on the metal surface. It's pretty much all over the case. as you can see. So I try to think of a way that I could try to maybe get rid of that, smooth it out without using like sandpaper or something, because I do not want to make the metal surface look all funky. And so I took just a dry sponge, and on the more abrasive green side, just sort of gently rub it. And it's actually doing a pretty good job of getting rid of it without scratching up the metal surface a bunch. Yeah, that feels a lot smoother already. So let's try it on the back. See like all of that stuff right there. So yeah, I should probably use the vacuum for that. Yeah, it's not awesome, but it's definitely a lot smoother, and it's not really doing a whole lot of damage to the metal. So I'm just gonna keep doing that and clean up the entire rest of the case. All right, so it turns out I guess I was missing one of the original style screws, so I ended up swapping out the one for the riser with one of the ones that I put up there. So it's pretty much configured the way that it would have come out of the box. I'll kind of tidy these up a bit with some like zip ties once I'm sure that everything's going to work properly. But that's pretty much what it looks like, and it's definitely way cleaner looking than when we first started. All right, people, we are getting extremely close to showtime. I have like just about 3 days to be able to get this thing all up and running, but I've got everything cleaned up as well as I think it'll get. I basically completely took apart the keyboard, and we saw that it looked a little dirty when I got it, and when I bought it, I knew that I was going to need some work. But it wasn't until I removed all the keycaps that I saw how disgusting it was underneath all of them. So after letting all of that soak in some simple green for, I don't know, about an hour or so, then I took a toothbrush and I was able to scrub all of that stuff off of the plastic. And after that, it looked a lot better. I also just sort of applied some 303 aerospace protectant to the plastic. I did not spray it directly onto the plastic because, as I kind of learned the hard way, it doesn't like to go inside of the little openings where the keycaps slide in. I actually tried to clean a much cheaper keyboard that way once, and it was a complete disaster. The keys would start binding. I don't know, something about the interaction with the plastic, I guess. But just on the surface, it's totally fine. It looks like a million times better than it originally did. And also the screws, the black screws that were inside, they were kind of rusty because I'm guessing there must have been some fluid or something that must have fallen on them. And I did soak them in vinegar to try to clean off all of the rust. And it did help, but it removed whatever protective finish is on those screws. But it ended up just looking like more just like bare metal screws. And so what I did is I just took a paint pen and dabbed as much as I could onto the head. And then I just kind of used one of the tweezers to make sure that it went inside of the actual the part where the screwdriver would go into. And so after that, I just sort of baked it real fast with hot air just to get the paint to solidify. And I guess in a way, it kind of ended up being almost like a powder coating situation where it caused it to quickly evaporate and kind of solidify. So it's really not that bad. You can't even really tell that the screws are in there. It looks a lot better. So I'm kind of happy with how that turned out. I cleaned all of the external plastic parts of the slide-on cover. So all of this looks nice and clean. It does have like some scuffs and scratches in some places, but I mean, not much I can do about that now. And also I cleaned the entirety of the metal portions of the case. So all of that looks nice and clean now, minus all the sort of blemishes and scratches. But that's what that looks like. Inside, you can see the metal looks a little, I don't know, there's like some stuff on there, but I can't really do much about that. And so the inside plastic parts look clean as well. There was one screw. Apparently I'm missing one of the original screws. They are kind of like hexagonal head screws. So there is a Phillips screw up in that corner. But it also turned out that apparently at one point I must have stripped out the plastic because I had stuck another little piece of, I don't know, something inside of the hole to be able to tighten this in. This is all blurry. There we go. But so anyways, I ended up putting a little bit of a longer Phillips head into that spot, and it holds together just totally fine. So this is pretty much ready to go. I did find the 15.3 gigabyte hard drive that I was talking about. Turns out I had stuck it into another computer that I was going to install, that I had installed Windows XP on, but I didn't really end up using that PC for anything. It was a long time ago. It was going to be for a project, and it just kind of sat there. So there was nothing on it other than an installation of Windows XP. So it's going to get wiped for this, but I'm not really losing out anything because there was nothing else installed on it. So one sort of a little quirk about the BIOS in this PC is that when you format a hard drive using the onboard IDE headers, they only format to 8.4 gigabytes. It's like a BIOS limitation. The only way that I can think of around that was actually at the time when I got this 15.3 gigabyte hard drive, it came with a utility disk. It was a floppy that you could use to format the hard drive to the full capacity, even on something like this where the BIOS limited it to 8.4 gigabytes. Another option would be to put in a secondary or a separate PCI add-on card with IDE headers on it. And then the BIOS on that would probably take over in formatting the drive to its full capacity, but I don't have one of those in here, so it's just going to be all stock. And then the other way is to format the drive on a different PC and then pop it in this PC. But the problem is that I'm actually going to be running the recovery disk that originally came with this machine, which amazingly enough has survived throughout the years. So I've got both the recovery CD as well as the diagnostic utilities disk, which is actually the one I'm going to run first. I just want to make sure that everything on the PC hardware-wise appears, or is at least working properly. And then if all that stuff checks out, then we'll run the recovery disk. But I'm not going to run the originals. I want to limit trying to use these as much as possible. So I did duplicate them. So I'm going to be running copies. And I'm hoping that this drive works. Other than popping it out and testing it on something else, I have no way of knowing if it's actually going to work. So I've already got everything hooked up, and I pretty much just ready to plug it in and see if it's going to work. Oh, and I also did apply some 303 to all of the external plastic parts on the media console and on the monitor. The only thing that I'm not going to have is the original wireless mouse. Unfortunately, I still have not gotten the parts that I said I had ordered that I was hoping I would work on this. So we're going to do a little bit of sacrilege and use a Dell mouse, but it's also a ball mouse. So it's not completely, totally different than what this system came with. Oh, also the base, I still need to figure out a way to fix the sort of sliders that kind of hold it to the bottom of metal casing. I also did not apply any 303 to the base just yet because I still do want to glue that part where it was cracked. So I'll deal with that in a bit. But for now, let's see if it'll power up and do stuff. Okay. I promise we'll get to trying out the machine soon. There's just so much stuff to talk about. A lot of stuff I had to do to get this thing to the point where it's at now. Also, the other thing I had mentioned about the audio cable coming off the media console coming to the back of the PC. I did mention that I did not have the cable, the connector that would attach to the back and go to the M-Wave card. Well, using a few bare materials and some parts, I ended up recreating a similar cable that goes to the board. There's two headers down on the board. I don't know if I plugged it into the right one. I guess we'll find out. There's one that's labeled P8 and one that's labeled, P8 and P9. I put it on P8. I think that might be the right one. I'm not sure. But so I did find a connector that fit there, and it had the little nut that holds it in place. So got the cable going to that. Not that it would matter too much if I don't have it. The card still does have a free line in input, but if I hook it up to that, then in the software, in the volume controls and all that stuff, the CD is going to be on the wrong input, which, like I said, it's not a big deal, but let's just try to make things work as originally as possible. And I guess now that there's not much to look at inside for the moment, I'm just going to slide the case on just to kind of keep it out of the way. And there we go. If we had the Dell mouse, that's kind of what the setup would have looked like back in the day. Okay, I'm about to plug in the power strip that the monitor and the PC are both connected to, and I have a feeling the PC is going to turn itself on. So let's see. Here we go. I'm plugging it in now. And yep, the lights came on. You see the CD-ROM light going. Let's pop that open. Turn on the monitor. And let's pop in that diagnostic disc. Whoa, I hear a fan making quite a bit of noise in there. It might be the CPU fan. Might be a little dry. Oh, let's go to the setup utility. Did I miss it? I think I missed it. Okay, so it's going to take us there anyway. All right, so let's continue with setup. Reload factory settings. Let's just go straight to the menu. And it's going to be flickering a bit, so... Well, let's see what it says for system information. Pentium MMX 200. Everything... Let's see. Yeah, you see right there, the hard drive, even though it's a 15.3 gigabyte hard drive, the BIOS shows it as an 8.455 gigabyte drive. And I think everything else looks okay, so that's good. Let's go and... let's do date and time. Okay, and right now it's currently 6:30 p.m. and... I think I need... No, I shouldn't need to worry about anything else. That should be it. Let's go... Oh, and let's see. Let's make sure... Okay, we need to change this to CD-ROM at least. Well... Okay, under system information, it says CD-ROM drive 5 not installed. Oh, that was weird. So I restarted it and went back into the settings, and now it does say that the CD-ROM drive 5 is installed. So I guess it was just something to do with the initial boot up after replacing the battery, since everything was wiped. So let's see if now we can select the startup, first startup device. We'll just say drive A, just because. Okay, there we go. Now we can select CD-ROM. So now I should try to boot from the disk, and then the third device is going to be the internal hard drive. So now hopefully it'll try to load the diagnostic disk that I put in the drive. Let's see if that works. So let's get out of here. Let's go ahead and save everything. Hopefully it'll boot right into the diagnostics. Oh, sweet. Here we go. Let's see. Let's just do some easy test diagnostics. To run diagnostics, you need to completely power your computer off to reset the hardware configuration to power your computer off. I guess it wants all the settings to be their defaults before it runs any diagnostics. All right, let's try to run the easy test diagnostics again. All right, now I'm just gonna go ahead and hit spacebar. Let's see what happens. Easy test. Okay, I had a feeling this was going to happen, and it says that it had an error created in the log file, but that's because the hard drive is not currently formatted to work in this PC. So that's kind of expected. So I'm just going to go ahead and just continue, because it wanted to write a log file to it, so it's not going to be able to. We're not going to test the floppy drive. I'm really not planning on using it anytime soon. Skip floppy drive test, press escape. And right now, it looks like it's going to do some hardware tests. So I just want to make sure that everything's okay before I continue with trying to run the recovery disk on the system. Oh, and while we're sitting here waiting, one other thing I forgot to mention is that I don't think that this was the right keyboard for this machine. The plastic on the keyboard does not match the shades of gray that this machine actually is. So... yeah, unfortunately, I don't know what the exact keyboard model number would have been, but I think this was close enough. Okay, it took a while, but it finally got finished. I even had time to go shower and come back. So it says select print log to print the results of the testing, otherwise press escape to quit. We're just going to escape. It doesn't give us any errors, so I guess Hardware-wise, things are okay? I don't know why it keeps saying invalid drive specification. All right. Well, I'm not going to bother running the long test. I think if there would have been an issue, we would have seen it by now. So I'm just going to hit enter to power this off. And I'm going to get the recovery disk. And we'll pop that in next. This is the copy that I made. So let's go ahead and power it up and eject the diagnostic disk. There we go. Aptiva product recovery CD. You're about to recover all the original Aptiva software. If you proceed, you will lose all personal programs, yada, yada, yada. We don't care. Okay, so to continue with the recovery, press enter. And okay, this is going to bad partition table. Oh, probably because, yeah, like I said, the drive. So let's just go ahead and continue. Do you wish to update the Aptiva software on your hard disk? Yes. Aptiva recovery disk, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. Do you accept these terms? Yes. Okay. Maybe this drive in this media console is an aftermarket drive. Maybe that's why it keeps complaining. Oh, boy. Oh, maybe it's the hard drive. Shoot. Why drive A? What? Okay, something's up. Let me see if I can figure this out. All right, I think part of the problem I'm having is that the recovery CD expects a formatted drive to be present in the PC, and because this was like formatted NTFS for Windows XP, I think that's where it's having an issue. So I stuck in a Windows 98 boot disk that I happen to have. I don't have a Windows 95 boot disk, and I'm going to try formatting the drive before I try the recovery, and hopefully that'll get it working. If I remember correctly, I think I had that issue when I originally popped in that 15 gigabyte drive into this PC. So let's see. Hopefully this is the issue, and we can continue with the recovery process. Oh, freaking A, finally. All right, so it looks like it's finally working. I ended up swapping out the hard drive, my 15 gigabyte one, for a Western Digital. It's like a 6 something or other. And it seems to be finally working with that one. I could not get the other one working at all. It looks like it's finally running the recovery process, the software. And I got the two LEDs, both the hard disk and the CD-ROM, that are just blinking, and it sounds like hard drive activity is happening. So I'm just going to let this run for a while, and hopefully we get something out of it, because I've been sitting here for hours trying to get this thing to go, and I've had no success until now. All right, and stuff is finally happening. Finally. Oh man, that took forever. It's close to 40 minutes now. Says that the recovery has finally completed. We want to restart to Windows 95. Let's pull the disk out of the drive. All right, so let's take that out. Okay. Should So Aptiva off, pressing the enter key. So it's gonna shut off right now. Then I just have to turn it back on. And now it should boot straight into Windows 95. Oh no, the hard drive is making clicking sounds. Is it bad though? Okay, it's booting. Oh, I've not seen this in over 2 decades. All right, system detection, detecting devices. Okay. All right. Welcome to Windows Setup. Gathering information. Let's just say electronics flow. No company. Say next. 5 ULA. Sure, why not? Okay, let's see. I think you can just type in all zeros and it. Yeah, let's see. Oh, not valid. Okay, let's read it. I know I have it here somewhere. I do not miss this process, I can tell you that much. Okay, and I wish this camera would stop freaking out. All right, well, it's finally all loaded, and it's all recovered to basically out of the box state. Except I want to get some sleep, so I'll play with this more tomorrow. I'm tired. It is the next day, and first thing I'm going to start off with is that the hard drive that I put in the PC, it just does not seem like it's very healthy. So I'm really, really hoping that it will at least make it through the weekend. It took me about 2 tries to get it to boot up when I tried to start it up to start recording again. And when you first turn it on, it makes a few clicks, but then it takes off and it seems to be fine after that. It doesn't really make any funky noises, so I'm not entirely sure what's up with that. And I really don't have another hard drive that I can stick in the machine for the time being. I did try using one of these compact flash to IDE adapters, and I have this 8 gigabyte compact flash card that I was able to get it to install the original OS onto. But for some reason, it just won't boot. And I mean, there's no other jumper settings I can change on the thing. Nothing else I can change in the BIOS of the machine. So I was kind of hoping to keep this as a backup in case the hard drive does crap out on me at the at VCF SoCal. Unfortunately, it looks like it's not going to happen. So I'm just going to have to hope that things don't go south. But anyway, I'm not going to go into crazy detail showing all the stuff that originally came with this PC. I am going to kind of just superficially go through some things. I would love to do like a more in-depth video, and we could spend hours just going through all the stuff that came with this PC, but we just do not have the time to do so right now. So I'm not going to record the CRT with the camera as I'm doing right now. I've got a few other pieces of hardware set up so that I can actually capture the raw VGA footage off of the PC on my computer. So we're going to switch over to that now, and then we can kind of start looking at a few of the things that I used to use on this PC. All right, and here we are. We are actually looking at the desktop, and the first thing you might notice is these funky animated icons, and those came like default with the machine. Like I said, this is basically a fresh install. I have not installed anything. I have not changed it. Well, actually, I did change something. That was the screensaver. That's the only thing I've done to this PC so far. I put on this inside your computer screensaver. If you want to kind of see that, It just has a circuit board pattern in the background, and then these components just sort of like randomly start flying in. Oh, let me turn the sound on. I'm also capturing the sound. There we go. So it just kind of starts doing little funky things, and you just got like some ICs and capacitors. And I think at some point, yeah, there we go. There's like a, I don't know if that's supposed to be a capacitor or like some random resistor just kind of rolling by. So yeah, that's the only thing I've done so far. There are a few other, interesting things on here. It's got these, I don't know, these are kind of weird. Stuff like kind of like flies in, like that phone. And so, yeah, let's not spend too much time on the screensavers. Like I said, you could spend hours just going through everything on this PC. The one cool one, though, that I am going to point out is this Play MPEG one. So this one, you can actually pick a file that you wanted to play as your screensaver. And I don't remember. Oh, we can try this. Okay, this is another interesting one, this Puzz MPEG. Let's go ahead and open that and click OK. Preview. So, yeah, this the video file for this, or this actual video file that it's playing, it's actually for another little puzzle game that it's available. I don't remember exactly where it's. I'm gonna have to find it, but I'll show you that in a minute. Let's go ahead and put this one back on, just because I'm gonna keep this one on for the show. All right, so let's go to. Let's see if I can find it. It's entertainment. Here it is, video puzzle. So this is going to load that video file that we just saw. And it's basically a slider puzzle. You can just, click on it like that to have the pieces go, and you try to get them to where they're supposed to go. And I'm not going to. Oh, there we go. I got part of it done. But yeah, so you can actually change the number of tiles, I believe. Yeah, right there. So you can have the XY up to 5 by 5, and then how your difficulty level, like how scrambled it actually is. So fun little utility that this PC originally came with. And you can also change the clip that actually plays. As you can see right there, it says change clip. And it gives you the options of those particular files. So this PC originally came with MPEG support. So a lot of the video files that are on the machine are actual MPEG files. And when we first got this machine, it was like cool to see like actual video files that did not look super pixelated or like very low quality or anything like that. So but being our first multimedia PC, that was really cool to be able to get that kind of quality from our PC at home. And so a lot of the other stuff that comes on this is the 7th level stuff. It's got this kids room sort of like application. And then,
hey there! Isn't this the coolest place? This is where we launch our programs from.
Sort of play for a bit.
Mission control. That's why we wear these helmets. Stylish, aren't they? Oh, I'm sorry. Allow me to introduce us. I'm Little Howie, and this is my room, which I am most happy to share with you. And these are my best friends. This is Stinky.
Oh no, Stinky.
Howie, don't all these dials and things make you nervous?
Oh, Stinky. You're such a kidder. And this is Alphabot.
Pleased to make your acquaintance.
He's really smart. We're here to keep you company and to help you play with your favorite computer program. That's very nice of us, isn't it? Here, let me show you around. This is cooler than the space shuttle, don't you think? Look at all this neat
I think I'm
stuff.
about to interrupt this guy. I don't know how long this goes on for.
We got a clock. And the Alphabot's got some cool games you can play.
Hey, Howie, tell him about the plant.
Oh, thanks for the reminder, Stinkster. That's our plant Trixie. We'd appreciate it if you would water her when you come to visit. See that can over there? Just pick it
I do
up
see the can.
and pour some water on her. Don't worry.
Where's the mouse?
She's a very thirsty plant.
I don't have access to the mouse
Hey,
just
hey,
yet.
I got an idea. Why don't you try clicking on the Alphabot, and he'll show you some games you can play. If you want to launch a program, just click on one of those big buttons up there, and then we'll blast away.
Click on the stop sign if you want to leave.
Stinky, that's not very nice.
Well, it's true.
All right, there we go. Let's go ahead and water the plant then, since I don't know what that's going to do. I really don't remember any of this. Okay, well, that was that. Let's see. Let's go ahead and click on this thing.
Tic
What
tac.
do we have?
The object of this
Oh,
game
yeah,
is
I
to
remember
get
these
3 X's or
things.
3 O's in a row, either across, up and down, or diagonally.
If you want to start over, click on the star. If not, click on the X to leave.
All right, well, we get it. It's tic-tac-toe, so...
Yes.
yeah,
welcome
basically
back.
that's what this was. It was just sort of like a fun little launcher for a lot of the, or some of the applications that came on the machine. Mostly game stuff, as you can see. We got Solitaire, Minesweeper, and then this one was Creative Writer. I have not loaded this yet, but I do remember this. And I used to use this a lot to, whenever we had to do like a report or something for school. So let's go ahead and launch that. Even though we don't have to launch it from in here, you can actually launch it from the desktop, but this is just kind of a fun little thing. And this is all running off the hard drive in real time, so I can hear it clicking away. There we go. And you got this goofy looking dude. I haven't seen that in forever. Hello, Muggsy. Please tell me who you are. If you see your name below, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so you could set your... Oh, I guess it was... I really don't remember. But I guess you could make like your own profile, sort of. And... Can we write something? Oh, I'm new. Okay, let's go ahead and click that. Type your first name here. Let's go ahead and do electronics. And let's type a fool. So, go ahead and click next. Very nice to meet you. Which of the animals is supposed your favorite? All right, let's go with the rabbit. Wait, is there a bird? Any birds? Oh, there's like that ostrich-looking thing. Okay, let's go with that one. Birdie. Good, next. Where do you want me to store your work? Let's do D drive, because I had to partition this drive into like 4 separate partitions. And so we'll just use D for storage for now. Let's go ahead and, yeah. If you have a nickname you'd like to go by. Yeah, sure. Okay, thanks for telling me about yourself, blah, blah, blah. No, thank you. Let's not waste too much time at the moment. I remember this. Okay, enter. And like... Oh man, this is bringing back so many memories. All right, let's go inside. What do you want to do first? Start writing on my own. Make a card banner. Okay, so yeah, you could make a bunch of different things on that, and this is why I used this so much when I was a kid. And let's just start writing. Let's just make like a quick little document. And writing studio floor. Just starting your own. Okay. Click right there. Oh yeah. Let's write something new. Document. Click the blank clipboard. There we go. Okay, so you could, yeah, select like your different fonts, different sizes, the like colors, and different styles and stuff. And you could also give them shapes. Let's see. Let's click on that. Okay, yeah. I mean, it's already clicked. Let's see. Let's just write something. I can't type sideways. Here we go. Is the PC that I'm going to take to VCF SoCal. And so, let's see. Shape. Oh, wait, what? Oh, this is where you... Okay. Sure, let's say... Ah, crap. I didn't mean to do that. Let's say Control Z. Control Z does not work in here. Ah, okay. Let's see. And let's give it a shape. Okay, so here we got different options. We do something like that. We can give it a different like texture. Let's do some bricks. So yeah, you can see a lot of different things you could do with this. We could spend hours just going through all this stuff, but you kind of get the idea. So, and then you can take that, move it around, this down. So this is what I would basically do. I'd, put like a title to my report or whatever, or whatever we had to do all the typing. You can do borders also. Oh yeah, here we go. This sticker you want. Click where you want to put it. Here we go. We got the raptor going on. And how do I scroll down? Okay, right there. Yeah. So yeah, as you can see, it's a lot of neat stuff. It's just pictures so you can. Oh, okay, so this is where you can import other images. Let's not worry about that right now. There's like nothing else saved on here anyway. Just put a funky little robot somewhere. Let's see which one. Let's do little running man. Okay, let's put him over on this side. Can we flip them around? How do we flip them? No, that's just to move them. I don't know what that does. Just say okay. There's got to be a way to flip them around. Or move things from one place to another. Okay. Well, I don't know. Whatever. We just got we got a little robot and a dinosaur, and yeah. So, and then after I had everything kind of the way I would want it. We could print it out in color and all that, and yeah. I mean, that's basically what it is. You can just do a bunch of fun stuff and do your reports or whatever. So yeah, let's go ahead and exit this. We could waste a bunch of time in this. So, let's just get rid of it, recycle it. Okay. Let's go ahead and quit. Let's get out of this. And this is going to take us back to that, the little cave thing that we were at. Hey, there we go.
I knew you'd be back.
So, yeah, that's basically it. As you can see, just a bunch of little kind of fun stuff, a little fun launcher for the kids mostly. So, let's go ahead and exit this. All right, and we're back at the desktop. I'm actually going to stop here for a second and just double check and make sure that everything's capturing properly. Okay, so yeah, everything seems to be capturing correctly, and we'll just show you a few little other things because I really need to get done with this, and I kind of want to get this video uploaded before VCF SoCal. So what else can I show you guys? That where is it? Entertainment. This audio station. Where is it? Audio view. So this application. One of my friends and I, we used to mess with this all the time. We used to record samples from music and use this application to chop them up, reverse some of the audio, do repeat it and do all kinds of different things. And I actually had a bunch of different things that we had recorded. And unfortunately, those were all on that original hard drive that got damaged. And so I wasn't able to save any of it. But we had some stupid stuff that we would do, and it would just sound funny and all that. So unfortunately I lost all that, but we used to use this application a ton. I actually used to use this to record other stuff as well, just not just to goof around with. But so this was pretty cool. This audio station, it's almost like one of those old school studio, well, not studio, but the home entertainment units. You got your CD player. This is a wave player, and then you got your MIDI player, so you could just load MIDI files on this one. You can load wave files on this one. This one plays off the CD. You can have all your different volume controls for all the different things. Oh, and I did verify that I did hook up the audio from the media console to the correct port on the M-Wave card, because the CD is playing through the right one, which is the CD player. So I got that right on the first try. Yes. You can shut these off if you want. You can just keep the ones that you want like available. I don't know. So they kind of gave it this sort of kind of like a equipment rack sort of design. So that's that. You can individually open these up, as you can see. So yeah, just some fun audio stuff that it came with. Video CD player. Just what it sounds like. Oh, Smart Sound. I think this is one other app that I was thinking about. Yes, this one. It's got a bunch of different audio samples and stuff, and it was, you can say what there says like create soundtracks or whatever. So let's see. Start the Mistral button. Okay. Sure. Let's stick to the. I mean, it doesn't have like a ton of stuff because it's basically like a demo version, but let's just. I'm not gonna bother to look for anything specific here. So just it basically lets you make sort of little tunes for that you could use for, I don't know, presentations or videos or whatever. Let's see what this sounds like. So stuff like that, you can change it around. Let me see if there was a way. How do you do it? So you can change the stuff around. Let's go ahead and click that. Let's see what this sounds like. So kind of get the idea. You can have sort of a little intro of music and stuff like that, and you can, let's see, I think editors were you. Yeah, okay. Here we go. So this is where you can set your, like, the different little things you can insert into your little soundtrack. So we can take off the guitar, we can put in a horizon loop right there. We can take off this, what is that? Horizon now. Okay, I guess let's put in cruising 4, and then let's take off this guitar. Let's put in this drive +1. Let's put it right there. So you can just mix it all up, and it doesn't always sound good, but here, just so you get an idea of what this was. So, yeah, you can do stuff like this. So if you were, I don't know, maybe doing some sort of transition or something in part of a video or whatever, or presentation, you can make it so that sounds like whatever you're trying to present, I guess. So yeah, this used to just mess with it and just make a bunch of different funny sounding little tunes. So yeah, let's go ahead and get out of this. See, you can upgrade it. And we'll just, go ahead and close that. So, yeah, that's another one that I kind of had in mind that I wanted to take a look at. And see, let's, some other quick little things. People this is a bunch of like PC related stuff, communications, Ring Central. This is basically a phone on your PC. We got you through some. Okay, let's. I don't want to do all this right now. Yes. Oh, okay. It's not going to let me do anything unless I enter in a bunch of information. But basically, it was a phone. You can use the PC to answer phone calls. You can use it to make phone calls. You can have it as an answering machine. You can have the modem set up or in the BIOS so that the modem can wake the PC up from sleep. And then that way it could answer the phone. And after it was done with the phone call, then, it could hang up again or it could turn off or put the PC back on standby. So that was, we actually used to use that back in the day. And then you could also get, you could play all your, what's it called? The voicemail, like off the PC itself. So that was pretty cool. Let's see what games came on this. So just all the basic Windows stuff. Oh, I forgot about that. Space Cadet Pinball. All right, we'll play around, and then after that, we'll call it quits, because like I said, I really need to get this done. So, let's see. I don't remember which keys are what. Can we see what keys are what? Player controls. Z and X. Oh, that's bumper. Right flipper is. That's okay. Plunger space. Okay, I think I got it. Let's. Oh, resume. There we go. Wait, doesn't it have music? There we go. Man, I used to play the crap out of this game. And I'm already Oh, it's coming back to me. No. No, I just turned them all off. It doesn't want the ball to come back down. It's just going to stay up there, I guess. Fine with me. Got a bunch of points. All right, I could spend a lot of time in this game, so let's just go ahead and quit now. So, yeah, like I said, there's a bunch of other stuff that I could show. Especially like all the extra software that came installed on the or that came bundled with the machine. So, as I mentioned, I've got the recovery and the diagnostic disc, the originals. I ended up having to reacquire a lot of the software that originally came in this booklet because a lot of the discs sort of got damaged over time. But I was able to find, I think, all of them. I do have Encarta 96, and then all these, these never got any use, at least not in our household. This World's Greatest Monuments disc, the Battle Beast, Mech Warrior 2. I used to play the crap out of Caesar 2. I actually never got to play this because my parents were like really anti like violent games, so never played this before. Maybe I'll actually get to play it now. And then other things, this Tripmaker CD, Dr. Brain. We used to play the crap out of that. Eventually, my brothers broke the original disc. I think I actually have the original disc. Oh yeah, here it is. So this was the disc that originally came with our PC. As you can see, it's cracked. So I ended up having to find a copy of that. But what I've done is all the copies of, or the original copies that I got, I made copies of them. So I am going to have these available to use at VCF SoCal. So if anybody that's watching this happens to be around and you want to try some of the software, I'm going to be able to load it off of the copies so that I don't further damage any of the original discs. This one was kind of cool. And this Jungle Book one, this thing was kind of funny. It was supposed to be like a movie game. So it goes through and like it's playing the story on like a video, and then at times you're supposed to react by speaking something or yelling out some like random sound, and I don't think I ever got it to work properly, and so never really got very far in this game. Maybe now I'll be able to give it another shot. But yeah, so I think that's gonna do it for this one. I'm gonna try to get this all edited and uploaded like as fast as possible. So anybody watching, like I said, if you're gonna be around at the festival, I'd love for you to stop by and check it out. And with that, thank you all for watching once again, and I'll see you guys around the bench.